I'm Father Mitch Pacwa, and welcome to EWTN Live, where we bring you guests from all around the world talking about our faith. I want to first of all offer Epiphany greetings. In some parishes and dioceses, they celebrate it on Sunday, but others are celebrating tomorrow. So this is already the eve of Epiphany, and a great feast that is. Tonight, I want to deal somewhat like John the Baptist at the baptism of Jesus, dealing with very seriously sinful situations. That hasn't changed in the world. And one of the problems that is a problem throughout the world, including in the United States, and in many places in the United States you wouldn't expect, is that there are thousands, as a matter of fact, millions, of human trafficking cases being reported. Many more go unnoticed, and what we will do tonight is look at some of the ways you can spot human trafficking, stay as far away from it as you can, and maybe even become effective in helping people get the help to become free of this modern slavery. Our guest tonight is trained as a critical care nurse. She uses her medical background to raise the awareness of the medical community to this scourge of human trafficking. She is a United Nations mission delegate for the Order of Malta, very old medieval Catholic religious order. And she focuses on human trafficking and refugees. She is the founder of Global Strategic Operatives for the Eradication of Human Trafficking. And she joins us tonight via Skype from Park City, Utah. Please welcome Deb O'Hara Ruskovsky. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Father Mitch. It's a pleasure being with you.
Oh, it's great to have you. This is an issue that I find extremely important, and have talked with people in law enforcement as well as in government, about what we can do and try to make this more known on my shows and other ways. But it's the first time that I've been able to do something on this program to cover the issue more thoroughly, and I thank you for being here. First of all, let's define, what do you mean by human trafficking? What's going on with this?
Sure. There's lots of definitions, but the UN came out with the Palermo Protocol in 2001, and it really stays today. And the three basic recipe ingredients, if you will, to define human trafficking is with force, fraud, or coercion. It must have those three elements to be human trafficking. Someone might be, being harassed or something like that, but those three elements have to take place if it's actual human trafficking.
Okay. And do you want to explain a little bit more about what you mean by these?
Sure. Let me give you an example. And an example would be nail salons. A lot of people now are very suspect when they see a nail salon because of some of the news reports. And now people may be getting underpaid, and that in itself is not human trafficking. But if you add force or fraud or coercion, and they've been taken away their passports, they're doing something under duress, then it goes into the category of human trafficking. And today,
and one of the ways somebody might be forced through fraud into this is somehow they're led to believe they have incurred some debt, and until they pay it up, or would that be an example?
Sure, and that's a great example. And so what happens is, I usually give a couple of examples, the differences between someone human trafficking that may be domestic versus international, and this is an important distinction.
Hmm.
We I work with survivors quite a bit, and they're just beautiful, and they've gone through a healing, and they offer to speak. And we are when we go out and train, we're survivor led, so we open up with a survivor story, and they actually remind us of why we do this work, and they should.
Hmm.
So, but when if you have a survivor, or I should say, go back a little bit, a victim that has been groomed, is in has some dysfunction in the family. Parents are either on drugs or something's wrong in the dysfunction in that family, and they're looking for love, and they've been groomed by somebody and made them fall in love with them false pretenses. Then they get them into human trafficking, and they have a very difficult time getting out because they have Stockholm syndrome. They fall in love with their perpetrator, things like that. Now, when Homeland Security goes and does a sting and they rescue this person, they have they do not want, they will spit in the face, excuse my expression, of the Homeland Security agent. However, conversely, you have an international person that's applied for a job, applied for a nanny, applied for an educator or restaurateur or a nurse, and they think that they're getting off at JFK or whatever international airport, and they see the sign and they have their name, and the woman's very nice and says, "Oh, I can hold your passports for you." And then they take them and they're put into sex trafficking immediately. They absolutely kiss the ground of the walk that the Homeland Security walks on when they
Hmm.
get
Hmm.
rescued. Two totally different dichotomies,
Yep.
but very much the same of force, fraud, and coercion.
Now, one of the things that we should make a distinction on, some people in human trafficking are forced to do labor, usually menial labor,
Mhm,
and others are forced
mhm,
into sex trafficking
mhm,
of
mhm.
various kinds. What's the ratio approximately? About what percentage of people go into or are forced? They don't take an option. Who are forced into sex trafficking, and others who are forced into menial labor?
Sure. Allow me to just explain the problem for you and some of the stats that go with it.
Hmm.
Currently, there's an estimated 40 million persons that are
Yeah.
trafficked worldwide. Now, I will say that's grossly underestimated
Yeah.
because that's been on the books for a while now, and it doesn't take into effect the border, a crisis, Afghanistan, all the other issues that are around the world. However, it's only as good as the reports we get.
Hmm.
Now, if we look at that number, you look at about 71, 72% are women and children, and the children are on the rise. Almost half of that 71% are children. Okay, 16 million are labor trafficked. And I want to also make sure that people understand this is a very lucrative business. The ILO, the International Labor Organization, estimates 150 billion per year of illicit profits um, in this human trafficking business. And people might say, how can that be? Well, if they just think about drugs and guns, for an instance, you sell those, you get rid of them, they're gone. You have to put back your inventory. Not so with human beings. You use them over and over and over until they're used up and not usable any longer.
Or
So,
dead.
or dead.
Yep.
Exactly. So this is really, and just so people know too, sex trafficking has skyrocketed since COVID. This is, the traffickers were wise. They took their business off the streets and into the social media. And so, and again, to no fault of their parents, or they just may not have been aware of what their kids were watching on their iPhones. They may have been the kids have been isolated from schools. They're lonely. They're missing their friends. The parents are dealing with their troubles with possible unemployment and trying to feed the family. So the kids, though, they've been on the social media for a long time, and the traffickers know that. And so the traffickers have been going after them and increasing at an alarming rate.
Mhm. And this is uh, something that occurs in anywhere from prostitution,
Hmm.
where some of these people, men and women alike, are
Yes.
forced into prostitution.
Hmm.
Others are forced into the pornography industry.
Yes, well, the pornography industry, now you're touching on something that what we call demand. What is the cause of human trafficking? And if we look at demand, it all boils down to pornography.
Mhm.
And so this has been a problem, and some people, the critics will say, well, that's been around since Adam and Eve. Well, you know what? It has, but it hasn't. It has gotten so bad because of the internet, and I know that organizations are trying to get a handle on it. However, um, I'll give you an example of the Nordic model, which is over in Sweden. And they were having such problems with pornography and people coming on their border states coming into Sweden, that they really had to take a hard look and say, what can we do to decrease this human trafficking, this prostitution, people coming over to buy sex? Well,
Mhm.
what they did was they embarked on a public campaign, educational campaign for the police, the hotels, the hospitals, and they let everybody know that they were not going to criminalize the victims, the prostitutes. They were going to treat them as they are, as victims,
Yep.
but they were going to criminalize the purchasers of sex. And they shamed them. They put their names into the paper, and it was amazingly effective.
Mhm.
So many people are adopting what's called this Nordic model and
Mhm.
trying to push decriminalization on just for the victims, not for the purchasers of sex.
Yep.
And so
And
that's
yeah, it's something also for folks to understand. It's not necessarily a traditional red light district in
right.
some city. It
Hmm.
is a traveling show. It's one of the reasons that the police are so involved,
Hmm.
because the trafficking moves up and down the interstates.
That's right. That's
Governor John Bell Edwards of
hmm.
Democrat in Louisiana
Hmm.
is very strongly committed to this issue.
Yes.
And one of the reasons is I 10, Interstate 10, is one of the main
Mm.
arteries for distributing these sex slaves. And so and I met with him and his state police and others, district attorneys, to
Mhm.
discuss, what they can do to spot this on the interstate and try
Sure.
to put a stop. But if you are going to prostitutes at big events like NASCAR, sporting
Yeah.
events are very popular.
Mm.
NASCAR, Super Bowl, big football bowl games for college ball.
Mm.
All these things are huge magnets for
Sure.
people who are customers,
Hmm. Hmm.
and the traveling show of
Hmm.
sex traffickers is moves in, and then is gone.
Yes. Well, you're make some great points, and you're right on target. I've been working a lot with I do know the senator, but I also work with Congressman Chris Smith from New Jersey, who has just been amazing at co-chairing the Human Trafficking Caucus on the Hill, and he taught me a great deal. And but what you're talking about, the corridors in the United States, and we
Hmm.
call them corridors, and one that I learned pretty early on that the one of the worst corridors is between Milwaukee and Chicago. And then the other one is right up I-95. And of course, I'm being from Boston originally, that's close to my hometown of right up going up I-95. And what happens is there's a there's a sale of drugs and prostitution and a lot of illegal activity, and that makes it, and motels, that makes it a perfect storm for human trafficking to flourish on those corridors.
Hmm.
So law enforcement is absolutely, you're right, they're targeting those, but they move very quickly, cross state lines, and that's why we have to work with FBI and Homeland Security. I've been lucky to work with Homeland Security for many, many years. They work so hard and tirelessly, but they, when they have a sting and they have some women, it's amazing how they work hard trying to find placements. And so I've not only gotten
But
involved with them.
when you say
Sure.
placements, explain what you mean by that.
Sure. So, okay, so let me back up for a second. With Global Strategic Operatives, we have focused under my UN umbrella, we have focused on healthcare systems. Okay. Why do we focus only on that? Because 88% of all, studies show 88% of all survivors have stated they seek out medical care. So the actual medical personnel, healthcare providers, are actually those that are on the front line to have an opportunity to identify. Well, it's great. We've been identifying, in fact, a lot of the healthcare systems that surround all those corridors we were just talking about. But you know what happens is then you identify. And if you don't act quickly, in the sense when the victim is ready to get help and you can't find a placement, meaning a bed that will allow for some help and resources to help their healing, not just a homeless shelter, because
Yeah.
human trafficking is complex and the trauma is incredible and raw.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right resources, they're gone and they recycle right back into the life.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do is get the right. Now, when I started this 10 years ago, I can tell you Homeland Security told me they had 6 beds, Father Mitch, 6 beds in all of New England to choose from. Now there's about 34 to 42, which is still pathetic when you think of the numbers that are out there.
Yeah.
So since we've been working with the healthcare systems, they've learned how to identify more victims, which is wonderful, and they make the appropriate actions. But then what do? So I've actually teamed up now with Avoda Collective and the Order of Malta, and what we're trying to do is work with the Catholic Church to repurpose and renovate some of the possibly old convents and old rectories that really can be renovated into a perfect situation where you're allowed 10 or 20 women or men or boys or girls. And we use, and those are the placements. And we have a secret sauce though. And the secret sauce is that we are training Orthodox Catholic nuns to be the loving, nurturing presence in these
Yes.
homes. And they don't have to run them. We can pay a program director, a clinical director. We can, and I'm helping with the AFN, the Academy of Forensic Nursing, is helping us get the right, good trauma care for them. But right now, we've brought in 24 Nigerian sisters as of October 25th, and with the help of Father Jeffrey Bailly, who is in Louisiana with
Yes.
Metanoia. And Metanoia Manor has great results after 5 years. It's a great model. So we're trying to replicate that. We now have 8 places in the queue, safe homes in the queue. And right now we have 24 sisters, all trained. They've done a month's internship, and they're now giving a commitment of 3 to 5 year commitment. Now I've got to tell you the turnover rate in these places are astronomical. They can't get people to stay. Why? They're getting minimum wages, and they're dealing with the worst trauma in humanity.
Yeah.
So, now you have these beautiful, loving sisters that come in, and there'll be continuity to the care
Yeah.
and love. And so we think this is the best model that can be. And so we are now have the sisters, and we have the safe homes coming from bishops are calling my partner Keenan Fitzpatrick, excuse me, and at Avoda, and he's getting calls that we want some of the sisters. We've never had such great impact on some of our staff.
Yeah.
So it's been a it's been a miraculous turnaround. And so now we're continuing this model.
Yeah, Father Jeff Bailly, that
Yes,
you mentioned, is the one who introduced me to Governor John Bell Edwards and
absolutely.
the sisters who are taking care of the young women. The I got to meet some, you know, you can't, they can't deal with it. You talk about the trauma. There
Yes.
is no way to underestimate the trauma that these young people go through, you
There
know,
is no.
from of all kinds. And I don't want to mention cases, but
No.
the you know, the great devastation, sometimes from infancy, of being
Yes.
sexually abused
And I'm
and
glad you.
physically abused
Yes.
and drugged. Instead,
Yes.
you know, I call this the modern slavery.
Mm,
And this,
mm.
the chains are not made out of metal, they're made out of drugs. They
Well, and
use drugs
psychological.
to
Yep.
keep them there. And then the
Yep.
psychological,
Yes.
you know, manipulation that comes in someone who's been on drugs is very
Mhm.
easy.
Right. They go after the vulnerable for
Yep.
sure, and they absolutely target them. But I will tell you, this is something what you're talking about. It's the trauma that is beyond people's
Yeah.
comprehension. And I think that may be why people are so uncomfortable to talk about human trafficking. You know, it's hard to describe to people a little boy or a little girl that's getting raped, literally raped 20 to 25 times a day, or they have a quota and they don't make their quota and they come back and they get beaten. And they get beaten in such a way in their torso so that they can still get out there to make more money. Do you know in India, we just did a training in India, and the physicians there were they were so devastated. They shared with us that the kids that are prepubescent, they're feeding them hormones so that they develop quicker so that they can get out there to make more money.
Yeah.
And also in Colorado, there was another group that was a family of uncles and brothers and this and that, and they purposely impregnated the women. They would they would force abort them. They would allow them to deliver, but then they would use that baby to threaten them. It
Yeah.
was it's just been a awful, traumatic, awful
You
experience.
you have to be a fool to
Hmm.
deny the reality of Satan
Oh,
when you see the level of evil perpetrated
yes,
on these children and the adults too. The
yes.
and so folks understand why children. One of the reasons is the customers sometimes, oftentimes falsely believe that they're free of sexually transmitted diseases. But they do have them. They get transmitted by these customers. But they have this idea that they're safe from disease, and so they want children. Among other issues that go along with various psychological
Yes,
disorders that seek children out. But
that's right.
even when those are not, you know, of that kind of disorder, there's still
Mhm.
this desire for diseaseless victims.
So they think, and that's one of the.
Exactly.
So they think. I just want to go back and say I do consider this the worst evil because of I can't believe what humans can do to other humans, and especially the children. The mantra today, sadly, is the younger the better,
Yeah.
and there could be a host of a lot of reasons for that, but it's truly sick. It's
Yeah.
truly sick.
Yeah.
And we've been even taught from people at different universities that on technology, anything with a webcam. New parents should know that the traffickers can hack in to your webcams wherever they are and really watch your routines. And if they want to get a child, that they can try really be successful at getting a child. It's so. But see, this is what scares people, and they don't want to even deal with that. And I can appreciate that, but it's better for them to know than not know. And
Uh,
so we try to teach everything we can to, especially the healthcare. we work together with Homeland Security, we and law enforcement, and we try to work as best we can to bring people to the point of the victims. If they've been there, like you said, since they were little, they don't know. They've only been told what to eat and when to eat, and all the decisions that most normal people have gone through in growing up in those formative years, they've missed. So we
And
have
yet
to,
alone the idea of play, developing
ex-
imagination,
yeah,
education,
right.
none of the joys of childhood are in them. It is total misery.
Yes. And so we have an opportunity now. And what I like to really, I know I'm trying to watch the time, but I really believe, because Pope Francis has said this is a crime against humanity.
Yes,
And he'd like to see the Catholic Church take an active role.
yes,
Well, that's it. The Order of Malta, Dr. Peter Kelly, our president in the American Association, he has this as one of his top priorities. That's why we started the Human Trafficking Initiative in the Order of Malta. So does a Voda Collective. They have that priority. And GSO, we're all working together because there's four P's when it comes to trafficking. And it's prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership. None of us can do this alone. But we really need to look at the Catholic Church, and we could be a real potential of making a huge dent in the eradication. Why? Because we have a lot of properties around the world, and we need to get these people healed.
yes.
So they need healing so badly. Now, with working with the sisters and working with all these wonderful people that want to get involved by volunteering and helping, the Order of Malta has 4,000 members across the United States and thousands more, 13,000 across the world. Well, we have an opportunity to really make a dent in this problem. Now, we're working with also the Sail Away Foundation has that's my 501c3 group. They have prevention. Oh my gosh, they have a great curriculum that I'm helping get through to other schools. We've got to start young.
Yep.
These kids, we don't want to take away their innocence, but we've got to let them know what's at that mall and lurking.
And
And
there are ways to communicate to them
yes,
without robbing them of
age appropriate.
innocence,
Yes,
but
age appropriate.
without them having their guard down. They need to
Yes.
have their guard well up.
Just like we used to always teach, don't get in a stranger's car. Well, we
That's
can
right.
still continue to teach that. And they have to be on guard
Yep.
because parents can't be everywhere.
No.
And so, the Catholic Church, I think we have a great opportunity. I know the bishops, Archbishop Aquila welcomed those 24 sisters and he signed for them to come in. I know Cardinal Sean O'Malley has welcomed 4 of them as we placed them in Lowell, Mass, as temporary housing until we have the actual house that I don't want to mention the location
No.
because it's for
Yeah,
anonymous,
yeah.
but until it's ready to go in. But we have sisters, 24 of them, spread out right now in five different congregations, and they're in 6 different states.
Yep.
And it's beautiful. It's
And
beautiful.
I've met them, and it's the kind of loving presence
Yes.
that they give.
Mm,
It's not, harsh. They
no.
are truly spiritual mothers who
Yes,
do a
they are.
fantastic job of bringing healing to these poor young girls. I
I
have
call
to
this.
take a little break right now,
Oh,
but we're going to
okay.
come back. We want to have any questions that y'all might have out there. So we'll take those as well. So please stay with us. All right, welcome back we are discussing the issue of human trafficking. And, we can only begin to scratch the surface. But I want to mention that if you want to find out more, you can go to Global Strategic Operatives. And that's for the eradication of human trafficking. But just go to Global Strategic Operatives. And they have a phone number you can call. It is 888-373-7888. Okay? So it's 888-373-7888. If that helps you to remember, it would help me. Also, you can, if you know of somebody that is a victim, you can also go to humantraffickinghotline.org, humantraffickinghotline.org. And if you have a reasonable suspicion, that you sense somebody is forced into a situation, you can go to that and they can help you take it from there. Anything that you have to do. Is there a website for Global Strategic Operatives?
Yes. May I
Please.
add? Okay, globalstrategicoperatives.org.
Okay.
And then the number that you said, the 888-373, 888, that is the national hotline that I just want to just make
that's
clear.
the hotline.
A national hotline if someone suspects something or wants to, even if you pass that on to some victims if they need help, that's a great hotline. And there's also avodacollective.org. And the Homeland Security does have another hotline, and that's 866-347-2423. 866-347-2423. So if you needed law enforcement involvement.
Okay, great. This is something that I hope people do get involved in. Somebody who called in but did not want to be on the air asked, how can they contribute to finding places for these victims? If they, to find beds for them to be in. What can they do to contribute financially to do that? Is there any way to help out?
That's a great question, because right now, as I mentioned before, we have about 8 homes in the queue, but we're trying to be very prudent. And we don't want to open anything unless we have a year's worth of operating costs. So we don't ruin the opportunity that the victims come in and then we have to close. So we are trying to raise money and really appreciate people to consider it. They can give in 2 different ways. They can go to that avodacollective.org.
How do you spell that?
Sure. Avoda is spelled A-V. Oh, oops, I have something right here I can just show you. I don't know if you can see.
So AVODAH.
Collective.org. That's a Hebrew word for work, worship, and service.
Yeah. I was going to say, so next time it's avodah, but that's okay.
Okay. I will tell Keenan Fitzpatrick that. Yes.
I said avodah. I said, I'm looking at this. I said, wait a minute.
And so that is one way, and you can actually even earmark it if they like for a certain one. I'm working in Lowell, and they could put it for Lowell, or they could put it for Denver, or they could put it for Pittsburgh, whatever. But there's several homes that are in the making right now. The other is Order of Malta, American Association, and earmark it, they must say, for the Human Trafficking Initiative.
Yep. Okay.
Because
we want to, and here's one of the advantages. I think what you said before, that we'd like to see a cooperation with government. And, you've got, Representative Smith, who I believe is
Yep.
Republican, but
Yep.
Governor John Bell Edwards is Democrat.
Sure.
None of that should matter, of
Yeah.
party. It should be
Yeah.
something that all politicians are opposed to human slavery. We
You
have
know,
a
Father.
bad tradition of that, a horrendous history of slavery in the past, and
Yep.
all politicians and all parties can be involved in saying, let's step up to the plate and do what we can. But then on the other side, the church needs to be involved. And we may not have all the financial resources, but there is the opportunity we have for other kind of resources like housing and personnel.
Yes.
And
Yes.
one of the great things about the church being involved is that the amount of money wasted tends to be very low, especially if the nuns are involved. They won't put up with it.
That's right. That's right, Father. You know, you bring up such a great point, and I would like to touch on it. Congressman Chris Smith gave me a great education because he asked me, I said, who could be against human trafficking? I was a little naive in the beginning.
Mhm.
And he said, Deb, you'll be surprised at the politics. So he asked me straight out, what are you going to do about the abortion issue? And I said, oh, Congressman Smith, you don't know. I was Respect Life education coordinator for 8 years for
Mhm.
the Archdiocese of Boston. I'm very pro life. He said, well, what are you going to do about it? Because this is a real issue. And to get a lot of the government money, you have to support allowing the victims to have abortions. And I will tell you that there is so much that goes on right now with forced abortions. And even a State Department study said the prevalence of forced abortion is especially distressing trend in sex trafficking. Now, the most I've personally experienced with the survivors is one woman that was in it for 10 years. She had 17 forced abortions. I will not be part of adding any more trauma to those poor souls.
No.
And so, unfortunately, there are people out there that will still drive these victims to the abortion clinic to have an abortion, and we will not. I recommend the Life Perspective. We partner with Life Perspectives, and they take all about the loss and the grief and beautiful, beautiful help that they offer. However, that's why we are only taking Orthodox sisters,
Yeah.
because they will be loving and nurturing. And I know there's good and bad in everything. And all I have to do, I've had to take some people off my website, because once I see those UN terms of reproductive health and reproductive rights, I know what those camouflage words mean.
Yep.
And that's abortion and contraception. And we will not be part of it.
And especially abortion and contraception for
Yes.
women of color and for poor women, whether they are Caucasian, African American, or Hispanic, or any other racial group, they target the poor. Let's take a phone call. We have Mike
Sure.
on the line. Mike, where are you calling from?
Yes. Good evening, Father Mitch. I'm calling from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area.
Great, thank you.
And my question is really to Ms. O'Hara-Roskowski. Listening tonight, I hear about the victims of human trafficking on your talk tonight. But what about the criminal networks involved? Are they an eclectic, loosely organized group? Or are they branching out from major criminal organizations already in existence, like drug cartels? And what happens to those arrested and prosecuted? I hear little in the media about justice outcomes involving these cases. That's my question.
Mike, that is a wonderful question. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mike. And you're right on point, because this is a very organized crime, absolutely organized. And you mentioned the drug cartels. That's just one example. But these, oftentimes, the middle people don't know the top or the bottom. And so it is very, very organized. We talk about countries of origin, transit, and destination, and that's tells you the flow of the human trafficking around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the United States is all three. And so this is so organized, and we have um, people that come, you would be surprised the level of white collar and blue collar and everything in between that are involved in this. Because when it comes down to, even when you think about, we talked about pornography, it can be anyone and anywhere. And so and the prosecutions, so the Homeland Security that I worked with worked so very, very hard on finding them and prosecuting them. And at the UN, they have a tier system. Very quickly, it's tier 1 through 3, 1 being the best and tier 3 being the worst. And they labeled the countries which are most complying with laws and how many prosecutions they do per year. And of course, it's only as good as the reports you get. But I can happy to say U.S. and Canada are still tier 1. Places like Haiti were tier 3. They've moved up to tier 2. Most places have deteriorated, like in Belarus and Korea
Yeah.
and Iran. They're all tier 3,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't even really get much reporting from them. So, but this is a very organized crime, and that's why it's so hard. And they cross state lines, and it's just yes, underground, a lot of it. And so we need our FBI, we need our Homeland Security to work with our local local law enforcements. And when we do the training in the hospitals, just so you know, we do bring in the local Homeland Security, FBI, and the DA's office so that they can all meet each other, the clinicians and the clinical leadership team, so that they establish a relationship. And then that way they can really start working together. So it's very, very complex, but it's very frustrating. But thank
Well,
you for the question.
and this is something also when we are in conversation. I've been in conversation with our local district attorney, who's just spot on, on these crime issues. But sometimes there are people who, for various reasons of redress of past problems in dealing with law enforcement and the minority communities, that sometimes district attorneys will lower the status of certain crimes. And we have to make it clear that this must be a crime that is not treated as a misdemeanor or something. These are very serious crimes that do what they can. And that's something very important. Also, again, another caller who doesn't want to be on air, but would like to know, what can he do to volunteer or personally help in these places? What's possible?
Okay. One of the things is that we have determined, no matter who enters these safe homes, whether it be hired employees, the sisters, or volunteers, everyone must undergo some type of training. And we're happy at the Order of Malta and GSO to provide that training. And so it's not long, and we can almost put it online and have it be available for people, and with live Q&A. But we're happy to provide that. The reason is, a person can do more harm than good if they don't know what they're saying to these victims.
Right.
Something can trigger them, and to no fault of their own, they're trying to, with all good intentions, trying to help them, but it doesn't help them if they haven't been trained on basic, the who, what, where, why, how, and dispelling some myths. That's what our HT 101 is all about, Human Trafficking 101. And the sisters, Just to give you an example, though, they've just gone through 10 days of training, and we've brought in many, many experts from all different sectors. And then they leave and they do a month's internship. And then before they're put in their permanent setting. So it's very important that people, if you want to volunteer, we welcome you. We need the help, but be willing to go through, an hour and a half of training.
Yeah, and
You can
and
use GS,
maybe I don't
uh,
know if you do any vetting of some of these because you want to make sure that certain individuals who might be on the side of the
yes,
criminals don't get involved. The protection
absolutely,
of these victims is extremely important, and
absolutely.
that
Security is
you can't risk.
number one. Yes.
Yep,
Can't risk, and security is at the utmost importance.
yep,
And we'll team up with all law enforcement to keep that anonymous and secure. We'll just call them women's homes.
yeah, yeah.
They won't. And we're careful on the names of them so that it doesn't give out. We'd love to call them all St. Bakita houses, but it's
Hmm.
pretty. It's a label that people know that stands for human trafficking.
Would Saint Bajita be one of the patronesses for all this?
Absolutely. We pray to her all the time.
Yeah,
And I think she's helping us a great deal. God has been opening up the doors, Father, that we couldn't have imagined ourselves
yeah,
for this particular effort.
yeah.
And I've been doing this a long time, but it seems to be percolating. And I think God wants us to help these poor souls.
And so, folks, know that if you, we have books and videos about the life of Saint Bajita, who was herself trafficked back in late 1800s and into the early 1900s
Yeah.
yeah, from Africa. And
Mm.
this would be a great patron for
Yes.
dealing with this work. We have another caller on the line. Hello, Samantha.
Yes, hi.
Hi, where are you calling from?
Houston, Texas.
Great. And what is your question?
Yes, I've been around a lot of the trafficking that's been going on in Houston and south of the border, and I just wanted to know if you have any idea. The real frustrating part is when you see a lot of that. It's so appalling and hurtful, and especially when it involves children.
Yeah.
And so you go to the police. You feel like you have to make a police report of some kind, but they really shut you out then. I mean, we're all aware of where the social services that are around for the victims and where, we should refer people as a layperson. I'm saying just as a resident, we refer people to shelters and safe havens and such. But when we call the police because we're just so appalled at something that we've seen, we never find out anything that's happening. I wondered if your guests knew, or what is the process after that? You call the cops and then they just take a report, and you just can't believe you're never going to find out what's going on after that. Does anyone have any idea what we should? They just completely just shut you out. You never hear anything.
Thank you, Samantha. That's important. And by the way, I did also meet with police in the corridor between Houston and New Orleans.
Yeah.
We met right near the border of
Sure.
Louisiana and Texas. And what you may want to do if this is going on, contact the state police in that corridor between Houston and New Orleans. They seem to have a little bit more savvy about the issue and where it's going. But that's
Yeah.
just something for that specific area. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. That's a great point and great question, Samantha. It is very sad. I have a lot of friends in Texas along the border, and I've heard similar complaints. But I'm not going to really criticize the police too much because they are still in the throes of learning about this themselves. And if they haven't had some really good training, they don't know what to do. They're still learning about homeless. They're learning about human trafficking. They're learning mental health. They're a little bit overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
I do say that there's some police forces and divisions. I can think of one example I met in Washington, but they were from Arizona. And they have a wonderful police force that has a division solely dedicated to human trafficking. Those are the police that are going to make a real difference
Yep.
because 24/7 they pretend that they're people online. They do stings. They're working so hard. More police need to be trained. Now, if you're getting nowhere with your reports, then, like Father said, escalate it up, escalate it to the state police, escalate it to your politicians, escalate it to the Homeland Security, escalate it to FBI. Keep escalating until you are satisfied. But there are people that really are caring and working hard on this. And if you're not getting the right answers or seeing the right results, they haven't been trained. And they don't have a passion because they don't really see is happening to people.
Okay. All right. We have another caller. Is it Michael Lee?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Where are you calling from?
Ever be Troy.
Great. And what can we do for you?
Yes, my question is, in the trafficking realm, how many of the traffickers are picking up kids from families who are willing to give up their kids for money for trafficking? Or is it mostly that they're kidnapped kids, or are they being back and forth as different types of family members want to give them up for a certain amount of time and then take them back?
Great question.
Thank you for the question, Michael. And sadly, I think it is the former that you mentioned. Most are not kidnapped, as we may see in the movies and see in the shows.
There are some. There are
some.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've
There's
met
still
them.
some that right at the. I don't want to give a false sense of security out there, but the traffickers have gotten very savvy, and they play on the vulnerability, especially in impoverished nations and countries, and they will go after people that are in poverty and promise a better life, education,
Yep.
more better clothes and clothing and shelter and everything and better life. And the parents, they just know that they need some money to feed the other children. So they choose one or two and they sell them. Most of the time breaks their hearts. I saw this firsthand in Haiti and
Philippines.
Philippines. This happens more often than you think.
Yep.
And so then when they realize they are just heartsick. This is happening at the border. A lot of the unaccompanied kids that are coming, it's because parents have been promised a better life for them. They've saved up all their money that they can to pay for the travel and the journey. And then when they get
Another scenario is very common in Latin America is
Yes.
when women have a child out of wedlock through prostitution, rape, or whatever, and these kids are running around the streets in some of the large cities in South America, and they're the ones being sent up for trafficking as well, because there is no parent watching them. They're on the streets on their own by age 3 or 4.
so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Unaccompanied children, you might as well pick them up right away. And that's what also happened, not to get into politics, but some of the Homeland Security knew of all the traffickers, and they knew which ones were going to right into the hands of traffickers, and they would take them and they would protect them. So, but it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So we need to work together. Some of us will do the training, some of us do the prevention work, some of us will have to help with the law enforcement, but we all have to work on this together to really make a dent.
And there's no one single part. That's why I think you're saying that all these different aspects are something that all of us can contribute to in helping to bring an end to this. And just we just have a few seconds left. I really want to thank you for this, the great information and your vision for what the church can do and how we can get, you've got some of the resources that we've mentioned. I urge all of you to pray to Saint Bajita, as well as to, seek to do what you can. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you,
And
Father.
I have to go out with our blessing. May the Lord bless you all and keep you. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And we can bring Deb and all the other wonderful guests we have only because the network is brought to you by you. So please keep us in between your gas bill, your electric bill, and your cable bill, and we will pay our bills too. Thank you, and God bless.